Serious, how did your previous relationship end? He tried to kill me. Was a huge deal breaker. She accused me of being her stalker and left me, for the man who it was later revealed to be her stalker. This sounds like the plot of a mid-poppin' Netflix series. I was given a day off work that happened to fall on my birthday. I told him about it, since we had planned to hang out that night. But I told him that while I suddenly have the day off, I'd like to still spend my morning to myself now that I had the time to relax and play some video games. He began screaming at me about what would others think if I didn't spend my birthday with him. I said, "It is still with you, I just got surprise time off and wanna chill a bit first." He then sent photos of the birthday gift he was going to give me going in the dumpster. That was the end of that. He told me on my birthday that he and his ex want to try again and that they are moving in together. We were talking about getting married a week before. The funny part is he was promising her to find an apartment for them in the same time we talked about my engagement ring. We hit a glass ceiling. We work well as friends, we worked well casually dating, but didn't work as a couple. Our respective day-to-day lifestyles didn't mesh. For one to be happy, the other had to be miserable, so we went our separate ways. No harm, no foul, it happens. She passed away from pancreatic cancer on my birthday in 2015. We built a wonderful life together and I will never stop loving her. I was truly blessed to have her as my wife. She told me that as she was leaving to drive to my place, a homeless guy walked past, looked at her and shook his head, and that it was a sign from God that we should break up. I wish I was kidding. He proposed to me in the middle of me breaking up with him. True story. The reason I was breaking up with him was because I thought he was kind of controlling and didn't listen to me. So him proposing in the middle of our breakup was actually very on brand. He died leaving me a widow at 57. She moved to a different state and joined a cult. She dumped me, moved out, literally took my truck and my dog, most Texas thing ever, so I moved to NYC. We broke up yesterday, after 3 years. I loved him, he didn't love me. I talk too much, he doesn't talk enough. I wanted our lives to be more involved and he didn't. Until I said it was over and then he wanted all of that. And now I'm heartbroken for walking away and will always wonder if things could have actually changed. Frick relationships. Together for 4 years. He started accusing me of cheating on him, making my life hell. Turns out he was cheating with someone he met at work and they had been in a relationship for weeks. He left me saying his head wasn't all the way in the relationship and said he'd come back whenever he felt 100% ready. Literally like 2 weeks later he told me he actually lost interest, and less than a month later he was with this girl who had rejected him prior. Holding her hand as she took her last breath. We'd been together for about 6 years before, and we had a year together after she was diagnosed with cancer. The last month was in hospital, and with the exception of a few days, I stayed at her side for that entire month. I took his abuse for a while. Like years. Had tried to leave him a bunch of times but never could. I was a young stay-at-home mom who dropped out of high school. I had no skills or qualifications besides childcare. Eventually the abuse turned from me to our daughter, and that's when I left. Didn't care how we were going to survive but had to get her out. Caught her in bed with my best friend on my birthday. 11 years ago now. It was long distance, and she actually broke up with me over the summer but told me there was a chance we might get back together when she was ready. I ended up going to the same uni as her in the hope we would get back together. Ending, she chameleoned me hard, and in my first semester I met the love of my life in the first week. We've been married 8.5 years now, and have 2 amazing tiny human. He was abusive so I ended it. Now I'm happily engaged to the love of my life. He passed from drug overdose, suicide. Love of my life. I miss him every day. She had a dream I cheated on her, so she cheated. My alcoholism was rearing its head. She is a bright, fun-loving, outgoing person who had a big family and had the biggest heart ever. I was consumed by vodka almost every night and would gaslight her when I wanted my fix of alcohol. She tried to help me dig myself out of the hole of blackout drunkenness. I realized I was bringing her down with me and I had to do the right thing and let her go before I ruined her life. I still love her and wish her nothing but the best, but I was the toxic person in her incredibly bright life. I am doing better and I am 39 days sober. I wish I could go back to her, but I know she can do a whole lot better than me. I dug my grave. Now I have to deal with it and not be a burden to her. She has gotten promotions and is on track to getting her bachelor's. Something she wouldn't be able to do worrying about my stupid drunken ass every night. Jordan, I hope you find the person that can make you happy and give you everything you want in life. I just need to focus on not freaking up my own life, let alone someone else's. Don't let something as stupid as alcohol get in the way of your happiness, my friends. Frick alcohol. I cut her off. Hard. I couldn't be with a girl who pretended to care about me. I loved her and she stopped loving me back. It sucks when they don't care, but it's even worse when they use you for their own emotional benefit. We were no longer compatible. We met in our early to mid-20s, and after 4 to 5 years we both realized we wanted different things. I learned a huge lesson from the relationship: to trust your intuition when you are no longer happy. I needed to draw boundaries and prioritize my needs first, and when it was clear she no longer can give what I wanted long term, I realized I had to let her go. I still have the memories, but it was a tough pill for me to swallow. She cheated on me with her cousin after a year of dating. After COVID hit, he was the only guy she was around during quarantine. Still devastated. I was a fool. I was unhappy with myself, and I think I externalized that and assumed I was unhappy with the relationship. It's not that there weren't problems, weren't problematic differences, weren't things I wished could have been better, but little did I know looking back that in many ways it would be my best relationship. There was so much that she was and that she did that I couldn't see, took for granted. Even though things had hugely improved between us, I wasn't letting go of past hurt, and dragging it along to frustrate her then present. We parted somewhat mutually, both feeling like the relationship wasn't going anywhere. She spoke the phrase that captured it all: "It is what it is." And so she moved out, got her own place. I'd imagined we'd stay close, maybe try to reboot things having left our baggage behind. But she, quite reasonably, didn't want that, wanted more of a clean break. And so we stopped communicating, except on rare occasions. I found out she started dating someone new. I was happy for her. The jealousy would come later. She once asked me, months later, if I ever regretted breaking up. I said no, but the truth was a lot more complicated than that. Some part of me will always wonder about the life I too carelessly gave up. Ah well, the pain of undoable elections, unwindable histories. Life moves on, new choices get made, get lived with, and interwoven in those new lives are bits you are grateful for and don't want to unbear. Still, you don't forget. I hope she's well. I haven't spoken to her in a long age. She created a new family, moved to Peru. Felt I deserved better and got better afterwards. Last relationship ended when I realized that he would and most certainly will choose alcohol over me in a heartbeat. I knew me and my girl had problems, but I was trying very hard each day. I had suspicions that she was being unfaithful, and it came to light after my buddy died. I told her what happened and how he was a good friend of mine. She insisted I handle it alone because it would be better for me. I told her I wanted her here. She insisted again and said, "I'll just come by later to see how you are." So I proceeded to drink. I finished a bottle of Jameson and walked the streets in my town with a backpack full of beer, ended up at a bar and got a text message from her that read something like, "Yo bro, I just got done fricking the shit out of your girl in the backseat of her car. You're a pussy." And that was it. I woke up on the floor of my living room with 2 missing teeth. Broke up with her. His depression got really bad, so he broke things off because he didn't think he could be a good partner. We're still friends though, which is nice. He used me because I have a house and a car. Tried to steal my car by searching for the car papers, trying to sell it to himself. He also still had a relationship with his ex. I didn't know he was still with her. I mean, they had a child, so it was normal that he still saw her, but not in that way. He started to invite his friends at my house, told him I didn't want him to, because those were all strangers making a mess and I didn't know any of them. It's my home, not a club. One day, he came in uninvited with 3 friends and I told him to get out. His friends started to get aggressive and I told him to get out or I'd call the cops. They left and never returned again. I couldn't even have called if I wanted to because they were using drugs, and if they'd say it wasn't theirs, and it's found in my home, well, by law it would be mine. Never heard from them again. Thank God I got out of that so easily. Ex was a drug addict, and when we started dating was pushing drugs onto me. Pretty soon I was hooked. After 2 years I escaped and got clean. He found my new apartment and traveled 6 hours to beg me to take him back, saying he was clean. I'm an idiot, so I believed him. Within 2 months he had cleaned out my bank account, robbed my apartment, wrecked one of my cars and stole the other. I called his mother and gave her my deal. He could keep the car, I would release interest on it and not call the cops if I never heard from or saw him again. Shortly after, I met my husband and we've been together for 10 years. I haven't heard a peep from my ex and I don't regret making that deal. My BF of 7 years broke up with me on our anniversary date. Guess he didn't want me anymore? I don't even know if it would count, but it made me feel very alive, something previous relationships haven't done. It had to end because we're both focused on making our lives work first. We neither have the time or money to make it work, especially since she lives in a different state. I'm unsure of where it's gonna go. We both agreed there's no guarantee or pressure to make it work in the future. But the one promise we made is not to stop hunting for what it is we both want. I don't care if whether or not she still feels the same way for me in the future, neither does she care if I carry my feelings with me years later. But above all, we want the other person to achieve what it is they're chasing, and that makes me love her even more. I totally saw it coming, but it was still so random. I had been thinking for a month or two that it would be easier for me to just break up with him cause I was clearly not in his priorities. He was dealing with stuff of his own. But I didn't want to go the easy route, so I was sticking around. But then I went abroad to study. This was planned and he supported it. But since day one of me being gone, we stopped talking every day, and it was pretty obvious that me leaving made him feel relieved. Like he didn't have to worry anymore about being a boyfriend. So I said, hey, you know what, I guess we're breaking up, and without skipping a beat he said, yeah, I think that's for the best, and that was it. And I felt weird, but not that surprised or sad, and I think that was the problem. It took me months to realize how he'd taken advantage of me sexually. One time he actually wouldn't take no. I didn't want to do anything because his friends were downstairs, but he started raising his voice and making me feel bad about giving him blue balls. I don't know, but I let it slide for almost a year before it started haunting me last March. Then I had to end it. Since breaking up with him, I realized all the red flags. He never usually let me say no even with little things. I'm not a super picky eater, but there are things I don't like, for example, salsa. He forced me to eat his grandma's freaking spicy salsa. I don't like tomatoes or spicy stuff. He also wanted to watch what he wanted to watch, didn't let me not ride amusement park rides, etc. If I said no enough, he'd just make me feel bad about it, acting like I was no fun or being a baby. We were together 1 year and 11 months. I had just turned 18, he was about to turn 18, so we were dumbass teenagers, but still. I always told people I loved him because he was so kind. We were together over a year, talked about moving in together, talked about kids in the future, all that good stuff. One night we got drunk together and I said I love you, and he says it's back, but like not really. Then I asked, no, really, do you love me? And he said I don't know. After fighting for about an hour, breaking up, and then again he broke up with me for a second time in one night. I had a friend pick me up. I got a call from him in the morning and he wanted me back, and I told him he was right to break up with me and we shouldn't be together. Picked my stuff up the next day and never talked to him again. 6 months later I met my now husband, who is the total package, and I'm happy. Partner of 13 years, wife of 4, rekindled a friendship with a bloke she used to work with, frick, decided he was a better option and left, devastated at the time as we had a child. Met my now current wife shortly after and blissfully married 13 years later, whilst she is currently a single, mildly mental and deeply unattractive woman who separated from him after 9 years as he cheated on her multiple times. When I have a bad day I think of this and it makes me happy. Frick her, she was a cunt. Don't cheat people.